Greetings to the investor community. My name is Dr. Kgosientso Ramokgopa, the head of the Investment and Infrastructure Office in the Presidency. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you at this inaugural pitching sessions organized by the Investment and Infrastructure Office in the Presidency. Just to say that the Investment and Infrastructure Office was inaugurated on the occasions of the second installment of the South Africa Investment Conference that took place in November of 2019. The President had, on the occasion of the inauguration of the sixth administration, on the occasion of the delivery of the State of the Nation address of the sixth administration, articulate 7 priority areas that will define the work of the sixth administration. And principal to these priorities is economic growth, transformation, job creation, and also the spatial reconfiguration of the South African space. And in this regard, he found it appropriate to introduce an investment and infrastructure office located in the apex office in the land for purpose of coordination and alignment of all of investment and infrastructure in the country. The President had also expressed a desire to attract over $100 billion into the country that will help to stimulate the infrastructure and growth in the country. He also found it appropriate to identify infrastructure as one of the priority areas to drive the growth and also to ensure that we resuscitate the supply side, ensure that there's some degree of localization, ensure that with localization we are able to realize industrialization and the creation of jobs. And in this regard, the office was then put into place to ensure that it leads the charge to ensure that investment in infrastructure occupy the center place in the sixth administration. We have, over a period of 5 months, engaged with the multilateral development banks, the development finance institutions, and the commercial banks to work side by side with public sector in drafting and producing a reliable and robust infrastructure project pipeline. This is done so that private sector can have sight of a long-term infrastructure project horizon so that there's some degree of preparation and some degree of investments that can help us to stimulate demand. And as we stimulate demand, hopefully we'll resuscitate the supply side, we'll be able to create jobs going into the future. We then conceptualize a conference that is referred to as the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium. It's sustainable because we want to demonstrate the country's commitment to the SDGs, to ensure that to the extent that is possible, we are able to draw on the big pool of liquidity that is seeking to fund infrastructure projects that are sustainable. And we know that is essentially cheap money that comes with that commitment. It's development because we don't think that at the conclusion of the symposium itself, all the projects that would have been considered would have been reached financial close. So we think that the symposium is going to take a life of its own so that we are beginning to institutionalize the planning, packaging, and preparation of major catalytic projects in the country. It's a symposium because we are drawing on specific and targeted participants into that gathering. Essentially, it brings together the project sponsors that are drawn from a multiplicity of government players and agents, and also the financial institutions sitting around one table so that we are able to find common ground going into the future. We want to also take this opportunity to thank the many multilateral development banks, the DFIs, and the commercial banks who have come to the party, helped us as the Investment and Infrastructure Office with the capacity to do technical and financial engineering of the many projects that we have received. We received projects from essentially the network industries. The network industries in this regard refers to energy, water, transportation, and ICT infrastructure. On the request of the President, we also included agriculture because of its employment absorption capacity, and also included human settlement because of our commitment to provide decent accommodation, as is the instruction of the Constitution, but also to find new ways of technology that helps us to design housing in a manner that is efficient, in a manner that is cost effective, but also to seek financial solutions that will help to relieve the burden on the fiscus as it relates to the provision of housing to the poor. So the multilateral development banks, the DFI, have been to the party, and we've been able to source multiple projects emanating from the key SOE state-owned enterprises that are aligned to the network industries that are within the agriculture space and the human settlement space. And in this regard, we have been able to prepare and package, like I said, a robust project pipeline that we think that is ready for consideration for possible funding by the multilateral development banks, by the DFIs, by many other funding institutions, including the fund managers that are present globally and also domestically, and also the pension funds, to the extent that the law allows them to participate. Let me indicate that this is a novel exercise, that essentially we are trailblazers, that for the first time in the infrastructure universe in the country, we have been able to bring private sector and public sector around the same table to advance a common agenda. And that agenda is the creation of a reliable, robust project pipeline. And we think that the points of intersections are major, the areas of commonalities are significant, and is going to help us to drive the country out of a very difficult situation of economic distress, also exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. We want to give you assurance that the projects that will be presented to you have gone through a robust interrogation, has benefited from great participation of some of the most eminent financial individuals in the country, those that have been forwarded by the MDBs to help in this exercise, that it has gone through significant forensics, and we are confident that what we are presenting to you is something that is going to advance the interest of the country. Let me also indicate that in the course of this evaluation, we have come to accept that there's some degree of reform that is required as it relates to the legislative and regulatory environment in the country. This should make it possible for private sector to participate in projects that are designed and prepared by public sector, to allow for agility, to allow for responsiveness, but to also allow for a degree of de-risking of the projects from the public sector. It is essential that the speed with which projects are determined, the robust nature, their comprehensiveness, give comfort to the private sector that these are properly considered. So as part of this process, we will be evaluating and reviewing the legislative environment to make it possible for us to usher in a new dispensation in the country, to ensure that we develop a robust and reliable project pipeline, and we are able to ensure that the economy rise out of a very difficult situation. So we're looking forward to your contributions. The pitching sessions will present to you these projects. As indicated, we hope that you'll find those that are attractive, and in areas where you need further interrogation, our teams will be available, will be able to share with you additional information so that there's some degree of comfort on your part that indeed you are investing in credible projects. This is going to culminate in the symposium proper, which will be taking place on the 23rd of June, led by the President himself, because he has given leadership and stewardship to this process. He takes both personal and direct interest in this process to allow us an opportunity to use infrastructure as one of the avenues to remake the economy, to ensure that there's greater participation, to ensure that there's a fundamental alteration of the economic relations of society, greater participation of black players, industrialists, communities that are located in villages, rural areas, and the township, that there's a shared future that we want to achieve, that everyone must participate, that indeed inclusivity, transformation are key ingredients to the South Africa that we want to construct. So thank you very much, and once more, we welcome you to this beautiful country. I know that this session is happening virtually. These are some of the tools and innovations that comes about as a result of the COVID-19, but I guess that is a new normal, as they put it. So thank you very much. Once more, South Africa is very grateful to have you by our side to help us to rebuild the economy of this country, and we are confident about the future. Thank you.